Welcome back, brewers and beer lovers, to Flying Wombat TV, and I am so excited to show you today's video because we are in the middle of Oktoberfest season, which is essentially a brewer's public holiday, and today we have this. This is a Munich Dunkel. So without any further ado, let's show you exactly how we made this beer and get stuck into it because I cannot wait to taste this for you at the end of this video. Prost! A German Dunkel is made or broken on the grain bill. It's all about the complexity and the balance of the grains that you throw into the beer. So today, we are going to be running with 40% of our grain bill being light Munich malt, 30% being dark Munich malt, 22% being floor malted Bohemian Pilsner malt, because I've absolutely fallen in love with that grain over the last couple batches we've done. Followed finally by 5% of Shepherd's Delight and 3% of Gladiator malt, which is just effectively like a Carahel or a Carafoam. It's all about helping with our head retention, giving us a little bit more body through the dextrins of that malt. And the Shepherd's Delight should give us some nice, complex sweetness. So where crystal malts are just straight up like caramel and they're sweet, Shepherd's Delight is almost a bit more like fruitcake. So if you know what that tastes like, you know what I'm going for here. Let's get it. Whoop. Now let's crush it. It's stuck. This is an important part of the process when you're brewing. If your grain mill works properly the first time, it's a bad omen. You actually want a bit of a finicky grain mill because that's how you get the extra flavors from the sweat that you pour into it while you get the mill working. Works magic.
Every time.
Kegland, do you grain mill? That is the grains crushed. Before we mash, let's talk water chemistry.
What's it smell like?
That smells good. It smells like cacao nibs.
Ooh, I can smell that. Yeah.
Smells like dark chocolate. Smells so good, so good. And that's that Carafa malt in there. Carafa is unique in the way that it's kind of like chocolate malt, but it's dehusked. So it's not going to add any extra bitterness or astringency to our beer, which is kind of essential for a Dunkel because you want those coffee-like flavors, you want those deep, bready, malty flavors, but you don't want astringency or bitterness with this one. It's meant to be a very drinkable dark lager. Now let's go ahead and blitz in. Now, whilst we mash in, now is as good a time as any to talk to you about why we constructed the grain bill this way. We need that Carafa in there, not just for the flavor, but for the color. We want this to be a dark lager. Doesn't need to be black, common misconception. It can be a really dark brown, that's totally fine. But we want the Carafa there because it's dehusked roasted malt, which means we're not gonna get that extra bitterness or astringency. But then the rest of this beer needs to be really malty, really bready, really borderline nutty, and having that malt-like sweetness that comes through using Munich malt. And I find that using dark and light Munich malt together gives you a far more complex structure around that flavor profile. And then finally, we're gonna have that undercurrent of sweetness coming through from the Shepherd's Delight, which is a melanoidin malt. So it's gonna give us sweetness in the way that's not regular sugar sweetness. It's gonna give us that complex fruity sweetness, almost like sticky dates, that really like tangible, dark kind of sweetness. Let's finish mashing this in, and then we can talk about next steps. Now that made mashing in a hell of a lot easier, and I'm talking about this mixer right here. I know I mention it in a lot of my videos, so for those of you that follow me a lot, I'm so sorry for repeating myself. But this is basically a giant paint mixer that we got from Kegland. It allows you to mash in a hell of a lot faster than using a mash paddle. If you want to pick one up, I'll drop a link down below on where you can find it. Full disclosure, it is an affiliate link, so we get a small kickback whenever you purchase using our link. It costs you nothing extra whatsoever. That is just about mash and complete. I'm now going to turn on the recirc, pop on the filter, and let this start pumping around. This is going to mash at 64 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes. Followed by 70 degrees Celsius, I think, from memory, for another 30 minutes. It's going to show up on screen with freedom units throughout the rest of this video for our wonderful American viewers. Now, We're gonna let that, followed by the end by a mash out at 77 degrees Celsius to kill the enzyme activity. We're gonna let that mash. We'll come back to you when it's time to start sparging. The mash is finished, so we are on to our next step. Our grain bed is lifted up. We're draining down our wort. You can see the last of it going through the grain bed right there. But now we want to run some hot water over the top in a process called sparging, if you're new to this world of brewing, which is basically a way for us to just wring out the extra sugars that are trapped in these grains right now and increase our efficiency. That's all there really is to it. Our sparge water already has been adjusted for water chemistry. It's got its phosphoric acid. It already has its salts in there, so it's going to be matching what the main mash had. And then after we run this out, which is, by the way, going to be 33 liters of sparge water over the top of this one. After we've rinsed and repeated all of that and run it out, we can move on to talking about hops. We are kicking off our boil and it's time to talk hops finally. So this is a German beer. We need to use German noble hops. Today we are going to be using Tettnanger. Tettnanger. Comment down below if you know how to phonetically say that. I think it's like Tettnanger, something like that. We're going to use 2 ounces.
And you lived in Germany.
Yeah. We're using 2 ounces / 57 grams. That's going to give us 7.8 IBUs. So this is going to be our bittering edition. We're not going to get a whole lot of the flavor from the hops itself, but this is just going to start us on our journey to make this feel and taste like a good German lager. We'll talk more about the profile of the hops as we get through this boil. We'll come back to you with 30 minutes to go. Hops round 2. Now, we are a little bit tipsy because we've been drinking the Czech lager. There's the link to the video right up there if you want to watch that one. Excellent, excellent Pilsner. But we're talking about a Dunkel here. So we've got our 30-minute edition of Tettnanger. This is going to give us an amount of IBUs, 5.9 IBUs to be exact. So we're slowly clawing our way up to, I think, around 17 is where this one was going to finish. 17 to 22, somewhere in that ballpark. In they go. You might get a touch of a flavor contribution from this one, but this is still a 30-minute edition, so most of this is going to boil off. But if you are going to get something from this one, it's going to be a little bit floral. There's going to be a touch of like herbal quality in there, a little bit of spice, but the whole idea here is honestly just to give us more IBUs, and then the flavor is really going to come through in the 15-minute edition. So we'll catch you then. Final hop edition for the Dunkel. This is going to be 3 ounces / 85 grams of the same hop variety, which is Tettnanger. And now we're actually going to finally get some flavor contribution from this. So this will give us about 5.6 IBUs, but more importantly, it's going to give us kind of a floral quality, kind of a herbal quality. There might be a touch of spice in the background, but nothing so much as like a Saz or a spatula. The whole idea behind this is to kind of give it more delicate hop varieties, hop flavors, I should say. Hop flavors and aromas on the more delicate side, the more herbal and floral side, because this is already going to be a pretty robust beer as far as dark lagers go. So I don't want to overpower the beer with too much spiciness, woodiness, etc. from the hops. I wanted to lean to more of that delicate bouquet so that we can actually let the malts really be the star of the show. Now, 15 more minutes of that, and then we can start cooling down. Now we are cooling, pumping that wort through the plate counterflow chiller. Counterflow, if you're not aware, basically means that the hot water is coming in one side, cold water is coming in the same side, and then, you know, counterflow chilling. Make sense? No. Yes. Okay, let me explain that again. We've got our hot wort that is coming in on this side here. We've got our cold water for cooling coming in the opposite way, hence counterflow against each other. It's the most efficient way to cool, but if you want to see which kind of chiller is best for you, there's a link to that video right there where we did an experiment with a counterflow, a plate chiller, and an immersion chiller to see which one came out on top. Now, we are going to try and get this thing to as cold as my groundwater can possibly go. I suspect that's going to be somewhere around maybe 19 degrees Celsius if we're lucky, at which point we will be okay to pitch our yeast. It's important we it's important we get this one cold because we're going to be pitching lager yeast and we don't want to shock the yeast too hard. So we'll come back to you when this thing is down to yeast pitching temperature. You've been struck by a crude criminal. Because I was just joking that it looks like crude oil because it's so black and it looks like a mirror. Give me. It sounded better in my head. Are you filming? Okay, we're back. We're at yeast pitching temperature now, or as close as we're going to get to it. So we are ready to transfer. Time to kick on the pump and let the crude oil flow.
Any time now will be good.
She's coming. She's coming.
I can breathe again.
That squat hurt him deeply. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. But yeast, at long last, we talk. What?
Yeast.
All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Yeast. And finally, I fucked up. And finally.
Yeast.
I stabbed my knee with the scissors. Oh my God. All right. Yeast. We can finally talk yeast. It's been long enough. We are going to be using one we haven't used before. I have no idea if it's any good, but I saw it. It was new, so I kind of want to try it. This is Cellar Science's Berlin Classic German yeast. Now, a yeast strain from Berlin is not ideal. This is more suited to a delicate German lager rather than something more like a Munich Dunkel, but this was purely out of selfish interest. I saw this, I really kind of want to try it and see what it looks like. We're going to throw it in. So, we are going to pitch this thing and ferment it at 12 degrees Celsius, which is on the slightly medium to cooler side for a lager strain. And this should emphasize, by what I read in the description, really clean ester profiles, very clean drinking lager that allows the malt to shine forwards, which is exactly what we're looking for in a Dunkel. So, I'll let you know if this yeast is worth trying. The next time you guys see me will be when I'm pouring a fresh stein of Dunkel. I'm gonna let this ferment for about 2 weeks at 12 degrees. It will then probably do a 2 to 3 day diacetyl rest at around 13 to 14 degrees Celsius before a cold crash. I'll see you when I have that fresh stein. And here she is. I've just filmed the intro and I literally haven't taken my first sip of this beer yet. So witness it with me as I experience the potential greatness or utter failure of this Dunkel for this year. It's not a failure. That's good. That's good. Okay, really bready, warm, warm flavors, a subtle nuttiness to it. Almost like hazelnuts, I want to say. Really light on the palate though. It's really it's a dark beer, and here's the thing with Dunkels. They're very dark in appearance. This one is like a very dark brown, not quite black, but they're very light beers. Like this one finished at a gravity of 1.012, which is slightly higher than anticipated. I was expecting more 1.010. Final ABV came out at 5.5%, but the actual mouthfeel and body of the beer is very light, which kind of is counterintuitive when you look at a dark beer and expect it to be heavy and thick and voluptuous. This is flavorful and complex, but it's not heavy. It still drinks the way that I guess a Helles would. Slightly heavier than a Helles, but not by much. It's still sitting on the lighter side of things, the smashable side of things for a full day of festivities and drinking in Oktoberfest. But that coffee comes through. Is it coffee? It's roast character. It's chocolate character. It's mochaccino. It's a mocha. That's what it is. It's chocolate and coffee together. It's not as like heavy as like some black beers I've made where they lean way into the coffee, like my Christmas gingerbread Christmas stout from 2 years ago. Link to that one up there. It's also not so chocolate forward, milk chocolate, dark chocolate, or anything in between, the way that my my milk chocolate stout was. Link to that video up there for Easter. It's not like that. It's some light blend between the two, almost like you've gotten just like a mocha coffee from a cafe. That's kind of the area that this one sits in, because the breadiness and the maltiness of this really makes it feel not so heavy, dark, and intense. It lightens it up and brings it back to being about malt profile and character, rather than being like an intense chocolate or a coffee bomb, which I'm really, really liking. It makes it much more drinkable. It's much easier to drink than like a traditional coffee stout. That is deceptively easy to drink. The head kind of hangs around for a bit. It's got like a light lacing of head that kind of sits there for a while, but nowhere near as fluffy as last week's Oktoberfest Double Decoction Hefeweizen. Don't remember if I've linked it. If I've got any more thumb cards, I will put the thumb card at the end of this video so that you can actually go over and watch that one next if you haven't already. Excellent beer. And what is also excellent are our Patreons, who are the people that support us every single month, in and out, behind the scenes in the channel. The financial support does not go unnoticed. Thank you so much, Patreons, for your generosity. It's because of you guys that we get to keep making these kinds of videos, because, spoiler alert, YouTube doesn't pay you much. So this is really more of a goodwill gesture and a hobby that we want to share our knowledge and our experiences with all of you great homebrewers on YouTube, but you Patreons really do make it easier for us to carry that financial burden. So thank you so much, guys, for helping us out with that. And for next week's video, your hint is going to be something that buzzes and makes the sweet stuff. We're going slightly outside of the beer world for next week. Drop a comment down below if you know what next week's video is going to be. I'm very, very excited for this one. It's an area that I have not done a ton of exploration in, and I'm very keen to hear all of your feedback, because I know that I'm not an expert in what we're producing next week, and I'd love to get all of your feedback on how I can do it better, because I've got a few projects that I want to work on with this one. So happy Oktoberfest season, everybody. Prost, and enjoy the rest of Brewer's Paradise. We'll catch you next week.